everybody. Welcome to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield holding it down for us in the DraftKings studio in Boston. We are brought to you by Wrangler, made for the ride of life. Save 15% on your first Wrangler.com order with promo code GOJO15. Got a great show for you guys. As always, download, subscribe, rate, review. Leave us the 5-star rating. Check us out live Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern, right here, DraftKingsNetwork.com, Samsung TV Plus, DraftKings YouTube channel, Roku, and more. Jedd Fisch, University of Arizona head football coach, going to join us here today as the Wildcats moving their way up to 17 in the CFP polls. Got a big one against Utah this weekend. We'll talk to him about that and a whole lot more around the world of college football. We got plenty of NFL to get to today. Actual good Thursday night football game alert coming in right now. We get a division game with the Bengals and the Ravens. Very excited for that one. But Dad, you and I this morning had the moment that underscores, I think, the fundamental difference between you and I and really the offensive and defensive player mentality in general. Is I woke up this morning and in a panic because I rolled over in my bed and realized I had slept through all of my alarms and managed to just wake up naturally somehow. Like I was 10 minutes past my last alarm usually, and there was nothing stopping me from running through the stop sign and missing this show completely. And as I pointed out to you, that meant I went through 4 different alarms that I have set up on my phone. I've got a minimum of 4 alarms every morning, and I've never once deleted any of the alarms on my phone. You're out here just raw dogging it with one in a way that baffles me.
So I started doing morning radio in 1995. 96 in Phoenix, Arizona, where I am now. Morning radio was 6 to 10 out here. And all the way through the time, at ESPN, which ended in 2021, which was 6 to 10. And never once. And my alarm was set for 4:15 every morning from 1996 to 2021. And I never set more than one alarm, ever. And there was most of the time I never even needed the alarm because my body just kind of woke up. So, yeah, and I never, and by the way, I never missed the start of a show. I never overslept. None of that ever happened with one alarm. And that's how I've been doing it since 1996.
That gives me so much anxiety. Like I am physically, my stomach is like rolling. I can't even, I'm same. I have like 6 alarms and I don't,
really?
I don't need them. Like I don't sleep past the first one, but I have them set. Like, I think it comes partially from, I used to do that in college with college sports with, and it was like, if you were late for something, you were going to get murdered. So you didn't want to be late for anything, but I'll set they're like 2 minutes past each other. It's like 5:01, 5:03, 5:05. And I just have them all there. And then I wake up on my first one and then I turn all the other ones off.
That's exactly how mine is. It's 4:05, 4:07, 4:10, 4:13.
Yes.
I had a couple of 4:20s in the background there. I have alarms from when I was in college and out still in here. Like I haven't deleted any alarms. It's just pages of them that I reuse.
Yeah.
I have old alarms set on here for different things to get up, but the top one here now is 4:45, and that's it. Now, when you say you set 6, isn't that just snooze? Aren't you just snoozing and
no, like there are, but you would have to, if you snooze the first one, like the other ones are still going off and the first one's still going to go off. So it's basically the idea that what happened, exactly what happened to GoJo this morning, which is where you wake up in a sleep-induced haze like a zombie and turn off your alarm and then go back to sleep. So you have 5 more that are going to go off unless you turn them all off, which apparently maybe that's what you did this morning, GoJo. You woke up, you said, okay, I'm up, and then turned them all off and then went back to sleep.
Yeah, basically, it's a real you snooze, you lose situation that went on here, and I was on the receiving end of that. So, the fundamental difference between me and my father in one nutshell here. We'll get to plenty more on that because Jesse actually hit on one of my favorite things about that is the holdover from like the athletic trauma of having to get up for morning workouts. But in the meantime, it is Thursday, which means we got to start to ask and answer some NFL questions here in the form of 3 for Thursday. 3 things that we got to talk about going into the NFL weekend. And Dad, I want to start with this. We're going to get eventually to your thoughts on the DeShaun Watson injury news because you had to leave the show yesterday. Right as that news broke, didn't get to hear your thoughts on that as the Browns are now going to be without their signal caller for the duration of the season. But I want to start off with the Raiders. Dad, if the Raiders beat the Dolphins this weekend, are we starting to talk playoffs with that team?
I mean, I don't think they're that good right now. I mean, you look at the teams they've beaten. They beat the Jets and the Giants. So I'm going to hold off on that. They have Miami, and then they have Kansas City. I believe then they have Minnesota, and then the Chargers. They're 1-1 in the division right now. If you have 5 losses, you're definitely in it. There's no doubt about it. I just don't know. Again, they're riding on this emotion. Antonio Pierce changing things up. 2 wins. I called the last one against the Jets. I mean, they're using Josh Jacobs more. They've been averaged 16 carries before Antonio Pierce took over. Now 26 and 27 carries in those games, and they have to do that because they have a rookie in Aiden O'Connell starting. So while by record, if they would win this game, they are certainly right there in the AFC. But I don't have faith that they're a good enough team to make the playoffs. I think at the end of the day, the newness of Antonio Pierce is going to wear off, and you have the talent that you have. And while I think we all admit that the AFC is not as deeply strong as we thought, I still don't think there's enough, because I think you're going to get 2 out of the North. So that leaves 1 more spot for the other 3 divisions, and I just don't think the Raiders will be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, I feel like you're probably going to get 3 out of the North, the rate that we're going with this season.
Yeah,
so
you could.
Might be a different 3 based on the injury news from yesterday and some of the things that we've seen. But I'm with you. I can't trust this because of how hard it still looked against teams that are bad. And they deserve credit for winning those games, but you're playing close against teams that are bad. Miami's coming off a bye. This is a decided jump up in weight class for a Miami team that had an extra week to get a little bit healthy. So I think this is one where the Dolphins probably get back on track and we start to come down to earth. Now, matchup-wise, listen, especially when you've got Max Crosby out there, you've got a chance, and this Miami Dolphins offensive line, if any injuries pop up, we've talked about it, it's a rock popping up into the engine of a high-end sports car. All of a sudden, it can start to sputter a little bit when you can get Tua off his mark and out of rhythm, but I don't see that happening this weekend, and so I kind of reject the premise of this question because I think that they're going to lose. Now, this is, I feel like us having to pay a tax to get to the next question here. Jesse, I've got to ask you a question that I asked you on Monday that I got frustrated asking, and so much so started accusing Rob Saleh of gaslighting us, which I felt badly about after. And so we've got to ask the Aaron Rodgers question again, Jesse.
Yeah, obviously. Just every week we ask and we answer and we look. Aaron Rodgers says that he expects to be back this season, okay? He's saying it, all right? He's publicly saying it. And if he's cleared and if he's willing to play, Robert Saleh, after being asked about this so many times, has said, look, I'm not going to be stopping him. So he said Rodgers basically is going to have the final say on the decision. Take a listen.
Aaron's a big boy, grown man. And no one's going to know Aaron's body like Aaron knows his body. And if he feels, after all the doctors clear him, and I'm sure there's a million of them, I have no idea on that stuff. But if Aaron says he wants to play, he's going to play.
Do you remember, I think it was actually a Taylor Swift quote. She was like, I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative. I'm not sure what she was talking about. It was from years ago. But I feel like at this point, Robert Saleh is like, for the love of God. Like, I don't know. He's like, the doctors and Aaron, they'll tell me if he's going to come back. And if he wants to come back, he can come back.
He needs to just bring a tape recorder up. I don't even know if we still use tape recorders. Bring his phone up with a voice memo and just play the same answer each and every week. Because, Dad, and you know what? I do want to say this because I heard Aaron talking about this on McAfee's show about his approach to this and, you know, the people that took what Billy Gill said on the Levitard show seriously and twisted it into rumors that Aaron Rodgers' injury was fake, which is just incredible. Yeah. Billy is my hero, the Duke himself. I mean, Dad, you're with him on God Bless Football every week. Yep. Billy's a national treasure, so God bless him for introducing that into the ether. But like, I heard Aaron Rodgers talk about why he structured things the way he did. And Dad, you know this, and we've talked about it before. Rehab is a lonely time. It is a really unfun portion of athletics because you're basically a separate person from the entire team. You don't do the same cadence with the team every day. You're not in the same meetings. And so Aaron said having a goal like this has helped ordered his steps in the rehab process. It's given him an extra emphasis on attacking this in a way that he feels like is going to give him the best chance of getting back the soonest. Now, he says, yeah, my goal was to get back this season, but Dad, you know this, a lot of times it's that shoot for the moon, and even if you missed, you'll end up amongst the stars. It feels like that where athletes are wired to, and I figured this out after I was done playing, is I still like having physical goals when it comes to how I'm going to push my body to do anything. For Aaron Rodgers, this just feels like an athlete brain thing where you've got to convince yourself, I'm going to try and do this, and so my effort adjusts accordingly during the process.
Well, I mean, we all have, the physical goals of where we want to be to start a season. And then with the injury, listen, the little bit of a difference was him. We talk about how you disappear, you become a ghost on that team. He's not. He's a walking headline, right? I mean, whatever he does, wherever he goes, a camera is on him looking at his stride, looking at anything, where the normal person, like a me who gets hurt and is off, you're completely disappeared. You're gone. Then nobody even thinks about you until you're back on the field. And what Robert Saleh said, and he's certainly not going to go into it, but from the standpoint of, and he certainly knows way more than he's saying. We all know that. But for the most part, he's right in saying there is no discussion on anything until the doctors clear you. So one thing that the coaches have zero, and coaches love control, but this is one of the things they have zero control on. They have to wait until there's medical clearance for them to even have the discussion about whether they want to put a player back on the field. And that discussion would happen. I mean, would Aaron still want to come back? If he could, and I think we both still think that that's not going to happen, but if he could, would he want to come back if the team isn't really in it? Would that be just tempting fate for next year and have to worry about a rehab again if you were to re-injure for next year? So I'd think long and hard about that. If they have a shot for the playoffs and a shot to do something and their defense is still playing really well, then listen, I get it. Every year is its own year. You don't think about, if we can get close this year, we can do it again next year. Man, you have no idea. Dan Marino thought that when he went to the Super Bowl early in his career and never got back again. It just, it doesn't happen that way. So you take your shot when you can. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to be able to come back. He's moving around great. He really is, but there's a big difference of moving around great and doing what he needs to do. So we just have to wait and see where they are. I mean, they're actually 1-1 in the division. I mean, even though they have the 5 losses. So, let's see what they can do. I don't think they're going to be there because you just can't trust their offense enough, and a lot is on the defense right now. I don't think this is real. Like, I don't think him coming back this season is real. I think we've taken what he said with athlete brain of, I need this goal, so I work very hard in the rehab process, which I actually understand. Like, I don't blame Aaron for framing it that way because that's how you've got to do it to accomplish otherworldly goals. Athletes push themselves past limits all the time by setting unrealistic goals that the outside world deems that way. I'm saying it's our fault for giving it credence and treating it like a realistic headline every week. That's a media thing. I think we did that. In this one case, I might actually not blame Aaron Rodgers for drawing this kind of attention and doing this. Let's get to one more question here, Dad, and it's what we dealt with yesterday when you were gone, is the DeShaun Watson injury news. So, Jesse, we got that announcement handed down during the show yesterday. We were reacting on the fly. Since then, we've gotten to hear from a lot of people, including DeShaun Watson himself.
Yeah, his season is over. Leaving Cleveland without their franchise quarterback here. And he was honestly just as shell-shocked as anybody else.
Heard about it, but, I'm going to make sure, I keep my head above water and make sure I stay in touch with all the guys and support them as much as I possibly can and attack this rehab process after surgery and make sure that I'm doing whatever I can to be beneficial for the team, while not, actually being on the field with them and also, prepping for, the next year.
He literally said in that presser, he was like, yeah, I have no idea when it happened. I don't know. He was like, yeah, I just realized something was off, and then the rest is history. So not great. Not great for the Browns. Not a good look at all.
Dad, it's so interesting how similar this feels to Baker Mayfield's last year in Cleveland, where he played most of that season injured, as DeShaun Watson has this year. It didn't really, after the initial shock of it, affect the way that we digested or judged the performance on the field. But now it gets a finite end. He played most of the end of this game injured and had his best half during his tenure with the Cleveland Browns. With this news, Dad, is the Browns season over? Like, is this done at this point?
Man, it's hard to think. Now, because their defense is so good, you have to give them a fighting chance, right? I mean, because they're sitting pretty good right now with their record, just 3 losses. They're 2-2 in the division. The only undefeated team in the division is Pittsburgh. They just keep kind of doing their thing. And that's who Cleveland plays this week, Pittsburgh, and then Denver, the Rams, and then Jacksonville. You know, at some point, I would have to stop saying people aren't going to make the playoffs, like the Raiders or like the Chargers or like the Browns, because somebody is going to make the playoffs most likely. Man, I don't know. DTR, they're going with him. Remember the last time he started, he only had about 90 minutes notice that he was going to start. At least now,
and it was against the Baltimore freaking Ravens.
Yeah, exactly. So now he has the week to prepare. And so he didn't really. He has 3 interceptions, no touchdown. P.J. Walker, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. So the GM, Andrew Berry, said they're going to go out and get another quarterback. Whether that quarterback is a contributing quarterback, we'll have to wait and see. But right now it's resting on DTR, who, you know, we watched in preseason and we really liked what he was doing, the way he was moving around and everything along with that. So, but this is a different story now. It's a regular season. It's not vanilla defenses you're playing like you do in the preseason. But again, he had the week to actually prepare for this one. I still give them a shot, because of where their record is right now. Sure. As far as 3 lost teams, there's 3 of them in that division, and then still 1 4-loss team outside of that division with the Texans, and then 5 lost teams. So they have a little bit of leeway there. We'll see. And also, it's not like DeShaun Watson was lighting up the world, right? I mean, it's not like he was playing like the top 5, top 8 quarterback he was in Houston. I think things were starting to get better. So it's not like you're going, oh, my God, we had an MVP candidate to, you know, a youngster, you know, who doesn't have a lot of time. So possibly, and because of their defense, I will always give a team a fighting chance. So, yes.
Yeah, in terms of DVOA, the Browns are the number 1 defense in the NFL right now. And you saw that on display for large portions of this weekend. I'm with you, Dad, that DeShaun Watson had not really been a value add. He had gotten out of being a negative like he was during the middle of the season. Right. 14 for 14 in the second half this week. Legitimately good. His best attribute, I think, has been shrugging off tacklers in the pocket and using his legs to get positive yards for them. It is, and we brought this up yesterday, Dad, still unfortunately the sad reminder that yet another team had Josh Dobbs in the building during training camp and let him walk out the door right now, because with Josh Dobbs, a lot of these worries, I think, are quelled because of the quality of the rest of the roster around him. Because you look at that game, Dad, between them and Baltimore, you had 2 different tackles. You were down both your starters at tackle, and even DeJuan Jones wasn't in there, who had been holding down the fort for you as well. And against this very good Baltimore Ravens defense, they were able to hold up pretty well, moving the ball in the run game still.
And still, you know, we're going to look at that, and people are going to look at that and say, boy, you had Josh Dobbs. You don't know what Josh Dobbs was going to do. There's a reason Josh Dobbs has been on a lot of football teams, right? I mean, he's playing really well now in Minnesota, but if he were playing this well, he would have been on one team for a lot of years. He hasn't. You know, and you wonder, does it start to level? It's a great story right now, but does it they have a lot of games to go, does it eventually level off? So I'm not really going to go down that narrative, because it's not like Josh Dobbs is saying, oh my God, you let go of a future Hall of Famer. You know, it's a guy who's bopped around a little bit.
Well, I mean, listen, Josh Dobbs is looking at Geno Smith's America and wondering what can be possible at this point. Maybe the Pastronaut just needed a change of scenery. Maybe it was more about you, Cleveland, than it was about Josh Dobbs. How about them apples? Coming up next, let's get to the fallout from NBA Fight Night. Draymond Green suspension. Was it enough? Was it too much? Next. All right, we will get to the suspension for Draymond Green. 5 games handed down during the NBA action last night, and something hilarious that I heard in the NBA Countdown show on ESPN. But, Dad, you and I were waiting through the beginning of this show nervously because we're boys and because this is not our information to divulge. But you have been given express written permission by the grand poobah of our family, my mom. In this case now, Grandma times 2 here.
Well, that would be Gigi. You call her Grandma, she's going to punch you right in the face. So it's Gigi and Pappy is the way we go as grandma and grandfather to one now of Jackson, son of Jake and Jenny. And last night, we now added our second grandchild, Sydney, our daughter, pregnant, her husband, Ben Broniker. They welcomed in Alexandra Christine Broniker last night in the 7 o'clock hour of Arizona time. So, Jesse, out by you, 9-something. Okay. 7 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches long. They will call her, she's Alex. So everybody is healthy, wealthy, and wise. No worries, no problems at all. We'll put out some pictures at some point once we get, Sydney says yes to that, because I'm not crossing that one. I'm not going down that road of not, I was given permission by, Chris to talk about this. I said, I'm not going no further until I get permission of everything. But everybody is good. We went by last night. Chris and I got to hold the baby, see the baby, and she's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's very, very cool. So, and I said, as we said, Sydney is doing well, and nobody ever asked, but you know what? Ben is doing well as well, okay? Nobody ever asked about the father, okay? All right, but he's doing fine as well. He goes through things as well, okay? Us men, we don't just sit there and well, yeah, we kind of do.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Time to...
The man doesn't get asked how he's doing because he did not just tear his body open to bring a human into the world. So he just stood there and was like, you got this. So, yeah.
Go team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben was content in every picture that we saw of him.
He does. And Ben was not harmed, as I was a little bit in one of the bursts. I caught some scratch marks on the chest. Ben was not harmed in any way.
Thoughts and prayers.
God
gave his toughest battle to you, his strongest soldier. So this is all so weird. I don't know what it is. Jake is a year and a half younger than me. Sydney's 5 years younger than me. And just the youngest in our family and in general has always been perpetually that in my mind. So the image of her holding a baby from last night was a jarring reminder of how quickly time marches on. Like the fact that she is going to be someone's mom now is mind-blowing to me, and I'm sure mind-blowing to you and Mom.
Like I said, forever you guys are now going to be called Mom and Dad, which is just a stunning realization. And yes, for all those that know Sydney, know that she is now in control of another human being, controlling and raising another human being, we all chuckle a little bit, which makes it all the more where she is going to just surprise everybody who knows her and knows some of the things she has done, and she's going to be great at this, right? This is where she is going to pick it all up and say, you know what, I can do this and be a great mom. I have no doubt that she will, but all those that she grew up with, being very little and then obviously college, are going to go, oh boy, Sydney is a mom. Wow.
Well, you make a lot of jokes about how Sydney spends a lot of your money, and now she has a little mini-me to help her, so...
Yes.
She's
just enlisted more in the forces to go and use the luxury card.
Yeah,
I did. But there was already a caption in some of the pictures going around in our group text, and there's a beautiful picture of her face, and somebody said she's saying, "Where's my credit card?"
Yeah.
Which is not far off from what's going to be happening. I mean, that's exactly when Sydney is looking for help from us. Is it diapers? Is it formulas? Whatever. She's like, no, I'm just wondering how early you can give her a credit card.
Yeah, I mean,
with her name on it.
She's gonna need some really good Christmas outfits, some Christmas drip, some Thanksgiving drip.
I already got her a Christmas.
She's a day old, Jesse.
She's good to go. She's got the Buc-ee's onesie coming out here. Spoiler alert for Sydney and everybody listening right now. I got her and Jackson dripped up when I went to Buc-ee's last week for my first time in the state of Texas. So they're taken care of. She's taken care of. My biggest worry in all this is the added mom strength, because my sister, and I don't know if anyone here has heard me say this, but I've said this before on air in the past. My sister's got the strength of like an adolescent chimpanzee. Like, it's very unnerving. She almost killed me one time putting me in an arm bar. And now when you do that and like combine it with mom strength, we hear those stories all the time of moms being able to like deadlift a truck off their baby.
Yeah.
Sydney, just casually during the day, her child will be in no danger, is now endowed with enough strength, I think, to rip a car door off pretty effortlessly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That primal mom strength is flooding her body right now.
Let's just be honest.
It is no doubt.
She scares us, right? Right.
She
very
scares
scary. You guys.
Very scary.
Yeah.
And now, now she's got her baby. You guys should just, be careful. Be careful, I'll say.
Well, I listen, it's easy for me. I just buy her a lot of gifts.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Keep her on your good side. So congratulations to Sydney and Ben.
Yes.
We're super fired up. Can't wait to meet the little peanut. And go and see another niece now of mine. I have to get the other verbiage in here. Niece and nephew.
That's right.
Added to the fold here, that we can go here and spoil and protect and do all those wonderful things with.
And little girls are the best. Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah, I know we've unlocked a whole new layer of fun gifts to buy and little things there. So going to be a very exciting time in the Golic family there. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to Draymond Green, the proud new owner of a 5-game suspension, Dad. You wonder if it was the dad strength that took over in him is the reason he choked out Rudy Gobert. And that 5 games feels right. Like I don't, especially in the. I guess this is my thing, and we do this in Major League Baseball all the time when we see suspensions. Mostly we laugh it off with pitchers because they get suspended X amount of games, and they're only pitching every 5 days, and so it doesn't really end up mattering. Draymond Green suspending 5 games, not insignificant, and I don't know what paycheck he draws per game, but I'm sure that's a pretty hefty fine that it amounts to as well. But this feels like how long you need to get suspended after you openly choke somebody out in an NBA court here. It makes sense. It's not ultimately going to matter because 5 games in the course of an NBA season, especially being played in November, is a drop in the bucket. But, Dad, I don't know about you. I didn't have a real strong reaction to this other than, that seems like absolutely the right penalty.
I think any time with, by the way, I believe he signed a 4-year, $100 million deal. So while it'll be significant, the money he's going to lose, he'll be able to make up for it a little bit. He's going to be okay. Isn't there really any number you see along Draymond Green's name for suspension? You're just like, okay, yeah. I mean, it's for people that don't know the way it works, it gets magnified for your reputation of what you already have gotten in trouble for. If this was a first-time offense by someone, it probably wouldn't have been 5 games. But Draymond has gotten suspended before, more than a few times. So he gets things. He gets bonus games. He's the winner of bonus games because of his history. So it doesn't shock me any. In all honesty, Mike, I was waiting to hear a couple of more games. I mean, he was literally trying to put Rudy Gobert to sleep. He literally was trying to get the sleeper hold in on him, and I think he wanted Rudy Gobert to slump and go to sleep for a little while.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert was like, he didn't even choke me out that hard. I wasn't even close to passing out. I'm like, if you got to say that, you probably need to not be saying anything right now because you got your ass kicked. Like
you got choked out and you couldn't get out of it, right? And while Karl Anthony Towns tried a little bit to help you out, he couldn't get him off you either. So Draymond Green was controlling that situation, and now he gets to sit and watch for 5 games. So, any suspension for him doesn't really shock me. And as we talked about, it's earlier in the season. So it was just what number you're going to hear. Now we'll see if he appeals it. I have not heard yet if he's appealed it or not. Normally you just appeal to see if you can get less games.
Usually it's just the PA process. Yeah,
exactly. But I don't see anything wrong with it. I thought it would be in that area. And as I mentioned earlier, when it's Draymond, I never really question the amount of games involved.
I laughed because last night I was watching the NBA countdown crew with like Wilbon and Perk and all those guys. And I forget who up there said it, but someone's like, hopefully we can get past this and get back to the Draymond that we know and love. This is unbecoming. The NBA, there's no place in this. I'm like, this is the Draymond. This is the exact guy that we've been dealing with for God knows how long.
Oh my God.
Zach Lowe's talking about how people are frustrated potentially in the Warriors building. I'm like, they know that this is the guy. What are we doing here?
back to GoJo and Golic. Let's take a look at what's going down in college football this weekend. We got 4 head-to-head top 25 matchups to look forward to. Georgia, Tennessee, Washington, Oregon State, Kansas State at Kansas, and Utah at Arizona. So we got some big games this weekend, some fun stuff to look forward to, but also some big news, which is that JMU has officially been denied their waiver. Boo, boo, boo this man. No bowl game for JMU. Guys, it's sad. It's like the NCAA doesn't like fun.
Yeah, a completely unserious governing body that we know is on life support and on its way out in a number of ways. But, Dad, this result was not surprising given the fact that we have seen 3 other committees that have met and looked at this waiver for James Madison, who's one of the teams alongside Jacksonville State and Tarleton State that's making the transition from FCS football to FBS football, Division I football, however you reference it there. That's normally, for anyone unfamiliar, a 2-year transition process where in that time you're allowed to play a mix of SCS and FBS opponents and you're not eligible for postseason play. And so what we've got here, and the reason why James Madison, I'm a little less familiar with the Tarleton State and Jacksonville State of it all, but in James Madison's situation, Dad, you look at this school. Normally, these rules are in place to make sure that you don't get out over your skis, that you're not a program that lacks the resources and makes this jump too soon, and all of a sudden you get beat up, you get beat badly, or on the other side, to make sure that you're not a team trying to capitalize on like 1 or 2 good years of a team you feel like you have, jump up and recoup the financial benefits, and then jump back down to the FCS level. But in this case, for James Madison, the way they have gone about this right now, the Sun Belt making them a full member outright and allowing them full scheduling in their first years in the Sun Belt, erases some of that. The way that they have structured themselves and prepared this program resource-wise leading into that. They've done all the things to basically take away the guardrails and the things that you worry about for a team in this position. They're saying, we're good. We don't need training wheels on the bike. We're ready to ride because, Dad, they are ready to ride. They're unbeaten in the Sun Belt right now. If they were allowed to play, they'd be playing in the Sun Belt Championship more than likely. And because of what we know in the college football playoff, the highest-ranked group of 5 team is eligible for one of the New Year's 6 bowls. See Tulane last year winning over USC in the Cotton Bowl. That would likely be James Madison this year. Tulane's been in the low 24s. JMU would have a real shot for that, Dad. So it's devastating for the players involved. And the NCAA, who's been on this kick of, we don't want to do waivers for everything. We saw that with North Carolina and their wide receiver earlier in this season, where for so long they had been giving out these exception waivers. The NCAA said, if you think the rule is wrong enough, we should address it with the rule change. That doesn't help the players in the here and now. And again, this organization is so lost that it can't see staring it in the face. Your charge is to protect the players involved. Your charge as the NCAA, and all these BS commercials you want to flout in front of me about you go pro in something other than sports and what this prepares you in life, does nothing to help the actual players involved on this team who are taking a loss because you can't see the obvious exception to a rule that you admit might be faulty.
So the other Tarleton State, they're still in the FCS. They're going to make their move, but they're still in it right now. Jacksonville State is in, I believe, Conference USA. Yes, they're 7-3 overall, 3rd in the league with 5-1. And then you have James Madison, as you mentioned. You know, they are mixing and matching schedules. They're playing Division I right now. The explanation, I would read it, but I don't want to give the NCAA the satisfaction of me reading their explanation because it is word vomit. It is complete word vomit of their explanation of trying to justify what they are doing. Now, James Madison and Jacksonville State, 2 teams, one undefeated and the other has 7 wins, can only play in a bowl game if there are not enough 500 teams to fill the 82 spots in the 41 bowl games. So they have to wait and see if there's not enough 500 teams, and then they could possibly play in a bowl game, and they're ousted until then. It's a joke. But, Mike, it's not shocking. The NCAA is a joke. Some of their decisions are ridiculous. ridiculous. And I know it's a monster undertaking of trying to oversee what they oversee, but they have slipped on the banana peel so many times over and over and over again that, one, we never give them the benefit of the doubt at all because they don't really deserve it. And then you just looking at this situation, just like the Tez Walker, that just blew my mind of why that took as long as it did, the wide receiver at North Carolina. So I don't understand this. As you mentioned, the only unbeaten team in their conference right now, and they in the Sun Belt, and they can't play, not even forgetting a bowl game, they can't even play in the conference championship game after playing a full conference schedule and being the best team in that conference right now. Just saying it and realizing that they can't play is a joke. You almost can't say everything without laughing out loud at how ridiculous it is. Yet it's the NCAA. So much like Draymond Green getting multiple games for a suspension is expected, the NCAA doing something stupid is expected.
No doubt about that. Joining them in doing something strange and unbecoming, Jesse, is the Lombardi Award. So we're in award season right now. College football awards are naming a lot of their finalist groups for the various awards around there that we see handed out at the end of the season. And I understand a lot of this is vanity and popularity contests, and you can have an opinion on the awards if you like, but these things do matter to players and universities and the legacies involved. And Jesse, the Lombardi now back-to-back years has gone with an absolute head-scratcher for those of us in the beef community.
Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. So I'm a little confused here. Do we not know how the Lombardi works? Like, can someone explain this to me? It's nation's top offensive or defensive lineman, right? I mean, what am I missing here, GoJo?
Yeah. That's what I always thought, too. Now, the Lombardi had like a 4-year flirtation where they wanted to try and open it up to the best player overall. I think Joe Burrow won the Lombardi during that time, but it has since shifted back, and the award does not even acknowledge the non-beef players that won the award. And so when you look back in the history, Dad, the verbiage of the award is to allow for offensive or defensive lineman or off-ball linebacker. Manti Te'o, Luke Kuechly, both past winners of this award as well. Guys that spiritually fit the moniker of the positions that Vince Lombardi was associated with. And looking at this, on the offensive side, it says down lineman within 10 yards of the ball on either side. This is a man in Brock Bowers who, no disrespect to him, is a phenomenal player and should be considered for almost every award in college football based on what he's put on tape, and deserves a ton of credit for coming back as quickly as he did from injury here. But that being said, Dad, part of the joy of Brock Bowers has been that he can do so much away from the line of scrimmage that you can split him out like a wide receiver, that he's been the most compelling threat on this Georgia team here. And so I just don't understand why we got to wedge him into the big boy award here. You're infringing on our territory. Brock Bowers is going to live a life with abs and running fast and not sweating when he walks upstairs. The very least that we can do with the fat guys here is give them this wonderful block of granite award and not give it to the skinny guy.
Listen, I agree. I agree. And they did have that 4-year period from 2017 to 2020. So 4 times it was a running back, a safety, a quarterback, and, well, a linebacker. A linebacker could win it. We've seen linebackers win it before. But there was the other positions, and they're not even recognized basically anymore after Lombardi went back to its original criteria. Yeah, I don't get it. And as we said, Brock Bowers is if he didn't get hurt, I would put him right there with Marvin Harrison Jr. for a guy to win the Heisman. Well, we know that's a quarterback award. You know my thoughts on that award. But they are awards nonetheless. But to be able, like Brock Bowers, to win the Mackey Award for best tight end, the Biletnikoff for best wide receiver, and then the Lombardi for best lineman. Now, he's a good enough player to where you say, boy, he's one of the best, if not the best in all of college football. But, yes, seems a little odd. But let me ask. Linebackers are off the ball. I mean, we usually talk about linemen, but linebackers are off the ball. So do you have a problem with that? I mean, do you think it should be
No, because it's stated explicitly in the award that they're allowed to. So I can understand that. It's been baked into it for a long time in a way that tight end has not been. So a little bit surprised.
Yeah, no tight ends have ever won this award, by the way. No tight ends have ever won the award.
No. So we've got that. Shout out to the other finalists, by the way. Liatu Latu at UCLA, Joe Alt from Notre Dame, and then I got to find the last one here. I will update that when we get back here. Jonah Ellis, as the other finalist for the Lombardi Award alongside Brock Bowers. Coming up next, though, we talked about the big matchups in this weekend, Utah and Arizona being one of them. We got to visit with Jedd Fisch, Arizona's head coach, coming up next.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Number 17, Arizona is hosting number 22, Utah this weekend. Now, with the W, Arizona will have their first 8-win season since 2014. GoJo caught up with Wildcats head coach Jedd Fisch to talk all about it. Take a listen.
All right, excited to be joined by Jedd Fisch, head coach of the University of Arizona, the 17th ranked in the most recent college football playoff poll. Arizona team that is, coach, you're coming off, fourth straight win. You guys are bowl eligible for the first time in a while around there. How does it feel right now trying to take in and coach your team through all of this newfound success?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with they're excited. There's no one on this team that's ever played in a bowl game. So not one player has ever done it. So it's been, I don't know, I think since 2017 there was a bowl game here that we played in, and our guys have gone through a lot of adversity coming here. They were on a 12-game losing streak before we got hired. Then we went 1-11, and so that's 1-23 in 2 years. And now all of a sudden they feel a little bit, they're in the fruits of their labor, I guess we would say. So it's been fun though, but we're not done yet. We got 2 games that are really, really important to this program.
How do you kind of walk guys through their first taste of success at this level? I know guys come from high school programs that have great pedigree or have won a bunch of games there, but now dealing with it at this level, has there been things you've had to reinforce inside the building for these guys?
Yeah, we've kind of made it very clear that if you're enjoying it, keep working, right? If you like the fact that you're being recognized, keep working. You're not gonna continue to get recognized unless you win. And you're now noticing now the reason why you're getting recognized is because you are winning. So if you like that, if you like the taste of that, then keep doing more of it. And winning becomes an addiction. if it's something that you're enjoying all everything that comes with it. And we don't shy away from it. I'm not one of those coaches that I don't really always talk about going 1-0 each week. I don't really talk about all the stuff that the coach talk of, be allergic to the big meal and all that. I tell them embrace the big meal and, let's see how good we can get.
In that regard, Coach, you mentioned the way you approach some of that stuff. You came up under some great coaches, along your way and in your journey with, Coach Belichick, Coach Spurrier. In your mind, what is the most important trait for a head coach? What did you come in when you took this job and say, this is what I know I want to be for this team in this role?
Yeah, I think be an honest and good communicator. I think that to me is the most important thing you could do as a head coach. And the last two head coaches I worked for was Sean McVay and Coach Belichick. And you take those two guys, and I think there's nobody that represents those two qualities better with their teams. You're never going to get lied to in New England. You're going to get told exactly what you did right and exactly what you did wrong and exactly where you stand. And in LA, it's Coach McVay is an all-world communicator. He's fantastic at it. He believes in honest communication, and he also believes in ongoing communication. And I think that that's really a critical part that we've taken in, and that's how we've been able to recruit the way we recruit, and that's how we've been able to, I believe, get our guys to trust and believe in us.
That was my next question, because you mentioned the record when a lot of these guys stepped on campus and your guys' early time here. How do you get players and recruits even to believe without the results yet, to essentially have faith in the message you're sending, even though they haven't seen the fruits of it like they do now?
Yeah, we used to say we need to have confidence without evidence. And when we walked onto the football field. And I think what it came down to is our message was pretty clear that we said this whole time that, whether we won here or not, we have won. I know what it does look like to win. I know what it likes to coach in a Super Bowl and national championship games and Sugar Bowls and Fiesta Bowls. And we just have to get to it here. And we got our best recruiting class, was our first year, and we were 1-11. We were coming off a 1-11 season. And everything was really more along the lines of, do you want to be a part of the change? Or do you want to just go somewhere else where you're really not recognized? You're just plug and play. And we really, I think, were able to get kids to believe in how awesome it would be. And if they're as good as they think they are, why not come here and actually be the change rather than just go to another place that was sitting at 9-3 or 10-2 anyway?
Coach, in that regard, you got these players to buy in. You got these recruits to decide to come and be a part of the change. As you look now at this season, there were known commodities, guys I'm sure you knew were going to be a huge part of your success. Is there a guy that, going back to fall camp or the offseason program, that from there until now has surprised you the most and has had the biggest impact on why you guys are where you're at?
Well, I mean, it's always easy to always point to quarterbacks, but I would say, in our situation, when we brought in Jayden de Laura a year ago, he completely gave an entire spark to our offense. We went from being the worst offense in college football to number 1 in explosive plays, number 6 in total offense, passing offense, and top 20 in every category. And then when Noah took over for Jayden, when Jayden had a high ankle sprain, Noah just kept it going because of his preparation, his habits, everything he does extremely well. I'd say the guy that's been the best, I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but Jonah Coleman, our running back. I think he's probably leading the nation in a lot of categories right now. He had 11 carries for 179 yards last week. He's had some incredible games. He's done some incredible things. And, he was an under-recruited guy, 3-star player with a couple offers, and all he came in here was to work, and now he's beginning to see the fruits of his labor.
It's been exciting to watch. There's no doubt in that regard. And now you mentioned the fruits of your labor, enjoying the success, not shying away from the big meal. You got a big meal coming up, one of the biggest you've had this season with Utah, the defending 2-time Pac-12 champions here. What's the message been to these guys this week about facing this team that's been the standard bearer in the conference?
Well, that's exactly it. I said, you're playing the champions. until further notice, they're the Pac-12 champions. And they've been the Pac-12 champions for 2 straight years. So, in order for us to be in the conversation, you got to beat the champions. And you got to be able to match their physicality. We all know Utah is a very physical team. You have to match their toughness. You have to match and surpass their execution, and recognize the fact that you got 2 7-3 teams at 12:35 p.m. on Saturday going against one another. And here's an opportunity to say, all right, the standard of Pac-12 play over a decade has been Utah. If we are who we say we are and think we are and want to be, it's time to go out there and play our best game against them on Saturday.
You talked about your honesty with players, and obviously that is the backdrop alone is a lot for players to handle. But for you guys at Arizona right now, there is the news and stories coming out this week about the budgetary concerns at the university overall and how that might impact the athletic department. We're getting at the time of year where jobs open up and your name is unsurprisingly shown up on a lot of people's lists for a lot of jobs. So how do you approach those subjects with your players who no doubt see all this stuff, see it printed, see it online in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, it's amazing how they see everything. They see everything and know everything. And what again I've tried to do is just be completely honest with them and tell them, like, hey, we have one job to do, and that's beat Utah. That's our job. That's our responsibility. Not to worry about what's going on across campus on whether or not there's a budgetary issue or not. Clearly, we know that there's been things that have been talked about in that regard. Certainly not worry about them going into the transfer portal or players leaving, who's coming, coaches, and all the things that go along with that. But just more than anything, like, let's just go play ball. It's what we've done really well. And the reason why I think Utah is who they are is because Kyle Whittingham's been there 19 years. Being somewhere 3 years is not going to be able to set any standard whatsoever of the type of program we want to get to. So he's had his defensive coordinator for 8 years. He's had his offensive coordinator for 6 years. And the stability that he's had is what's allowed them to be the standard bearer. If we want to be a standard bearer one day, we got to have great stability also.
It's so true, and it's very rare in this day and age in college football that you get that. So you're right, no surprise why they've had that success. And certainly, talking to you here, no surprise why you guys have had this success here now in 2023 for Arizona. Coach, can't thank you enough for the time. I know you got a busy week coming up for all the reasons that you mentioned. Thanks so much. Good luck, and excited to watch you guys close out the season.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on anytime. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too, Coach.
question.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. We were talking about something very unsavory in the break, and I can't get
it was very savory. It was beef tongue.
Beef tongue. Yeah, it's not for me. And that's just a mental thing. I think it's just a mental thing. I have a mental block when it comes to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Don't like it.
You wouldn't eat beef. Like, so if I presented it to you and you ate it, and then after the fact I told you, by the way, Chris Farley style, did you know that those were actually crystals? You would freak out if I told you, by the way, do you know this delicious beef dish that was on top of a bed of gnocchi was actually tongue? You would freak out and punch me if I was the server.
I wouldn't freak out and punch you, but I just would never, even if I thought it was good while I ate it, like I would not order it again.
See, that's interesting because
good?
if
Even
you
if
liked
I thought it was good, yeah. It's a
Really?
mental block, because if I know I'm eating beef tongue, there's like a mental thing there.
Do you have any other mental block foods out there that you won't eat?
Lamb.
Okay.
Just lamb in general?
Yeah, it's a baby. It's a baby animal.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things are animals that we're killing to eat this.
All these things
Sure,
were
but
alive.
we're not killing them as a baby. Lamb is literally a newborn animal. You kill it as a baby because it's nice and tender and sweet, and I don't like that.
God, is it tender and sweet.
All right, I mean, there's part of me that could see that. The beef tongue, I don't understand, because if it tastes good, why would it matter?
I don't know. It's a mental
Because she keeps
thing.
In her defense, it looks very much like tongue. Like, I saw it and I was like, oh, it's giving tongue. And then I tasted it and I was like, oh, it's giving really good beef. So beef tongue, A1 there, a little bit disturbing for Jesse. Not nearly as disturbing as our rankings from last week, already in shambles from the first round of the NFL's college football playoff committee rankings. Me, you, and Jason Fitz started this last week. It was an old Fitzian idea from ESPN, where what if we looked at the NFL every week, because we have tried and failed miserably every week this season, especially, to figure out who the best team in the NFL is. Because it feels like every year when we crown a new team as the best team in the NFL, they immediately go and get their doors blown off the next weekend. So I almost feel bad crowning a team each week, but we decided to apply the same college football playoff process to this, looking at things like head-to-head wins, strength of schedule, quality losses, all the works that get discussed in the college football playoff room to figure out who the top 4 teams are. Jesse, do we have last week's standings of what we went with?
Oh, we sure do. You're taking a look at them right now up here. We have them on the board. You can see. We have Philly, we have Baltimore, KC, and Cincinnati. And that was where we went with our, imaginary world where we have an NFL playoff selection committee. I saw you slapped your face, GoJo, oh no. So fellas, basically, how would this be changing now after week 10? Because it do be changing.
Oh, it's definitely changing. I got to believe right out of the gate, Mike, that Cincinnati is out of the 4. And then the question is going to be, does Baltimore drop out of the 4? Because the 2 that we have to think about is going to be San Francisco and Detroit. We made the mistake last week of kind of keeping Detroit down a little bit, and we apologized for that. I think they're definitely going to be in it. It's just a matter of, is Cincinnati and Baltimore going to be out, replaced by San Francisco and Detroit, or are we leaving Baltimore in? And then if so, which of those 2, Detroit or San Francisco, goes in the top 4?
I would be tempted to put Baltimore still in the top 4, because when you look at the way this team has played this season, we'll get to this because they're playing in Thursday Night Football, but they're still the NFL leader in point differential. They've had some wonky fourth quarters. Every game they lost has been by a touchdown or less. And in most of those, when you look at the win probability of the games, those little graphs on ESPN.com that some of you might see in the corner and never bother with, it's almost always a game that they lose somehow inexplicably at the end. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. The offense, while a little banged up going into tonight with left tackle Ronnie Stanley out, has been incredible on the ground. They've gotten the boost from Keaton Mitchell in the last couple of weeks. He needs more touches tonight, by the way. So I would still be pretty comfortable having them in there, Dad, in terms of, hey, they're still right now a team that's in the playoffs at this point. You look at the playoff standings, they're leading the division in the AFC North. And they've still looked like one of the best teams in football in all the ways that visually and performance-wise we do value in this. And because it's the college football playoff analogy here. Performance does matter. Efficiency on both sides of the ball does matter. When the CFP was looking at Florida State and Washington at the 4-5 spot, one of the things they referenced was statistically and what we've seen on the field, Florida State's a more balanced team. Washington's defense has fallen off a cliff in recent weeks. And so those are things that are factored in of overall performance and how that backs up the eye test.
I probably, because I heard you and Fitz, I probably would have Washington ahead of Florida State, but I get it on the balance side of it. That's the thing. I mean, you have 13 people in that committee and you have criteria, but what happens is each individual 13 of those 13 people rank their criteria differently, right? So some might put more on eye test, some more on stats along those lines. So I think for me, so you had Philly and KC had buys, right? So that's why Travis Kelce is over in Argentina hanging out with Taylor
By the way,
Swift.
man, what an experience that's been. Did you hear that the Kelce parents and the Swift parents are apparently all going to be in the box at the game this weekend and meet for the first time?
Oh, my God.
That's the room.
Wait, is she not? Not Taylor. She's still out on the tour, right? It's just the parents?
I'll double check that. But
yes.
I know at least the parents are.
Maybe she has a break and she's going to, a Thanksgiving break probably.
Oh, okay.
Taylor Swift's got a bye weekend coming up, and so on her bye, she now gets to fly up here for Travis's game. It's
and
a bye home and
the parents are
home.
meeting. They're going to be wed very soon. Just saying.
Wow, how about
It is.
that? Holy
So
smokes.
much love there.
You Swifties have to be losing your minds over this one. I would keep 1 and 2. Well, Baltimore was 2. I would have Philly number 1. I think I would still have KC number 2. I would put Detroit at 3, and I would keep Baltimore in, but they would be 4 right now, which would mean San Francisco is still a bit on the outside looking in, even though they look very, very strong in dismantling Jacksonville.
Yeah, Dad, I think the question really is going to become, because I agree with you on that top 4. I think as we've gone through the season now and going into week 11 already, which is crazy, Philly and Kansas City still seem the most trustworthy. A Super Bowl rematch in a season that's been marred by injury, especially at the quarterback position, feels more likely than ever. And then scrolling on down, Detroit rightfully earning a place in there. It was a victory where they let up a lot of points to the Chargers offense, but I think that's just as much. Hey, it's not necessarily I'm going to dog Detroit's defense that much, but to say every once in a while this Chargers team's going to play up to the potential that we've seen on this roster for a while, and last week ended up being one of those weeks. Baltimore, I do think deserves to be in there. They have still been one of the best teams in the NFL. I think they're number 1 in DVOA coming off of week 10 still. So they are still one of the most ruthlessly efficient teams on both sides of the ball. It's the next 2 out that become interesting, Dad, because how far should Cincinnati be punished in our minds for losing this last weekend, knowing injuries affected part of this? Sam Hubbard was out. There was the injury, the hamstring, I believe, to Trey Hendrickson. Offensively, T. Higgins missed the game with a hamstring and looks like he's going to miss the game tonight with that hamstring as well on a short week. And so where do we slot them? Because it feels like that next 3 down, Dad, is San Francisco, Dallas, and Cincinnati in some order.
Yeah, I think you would be right there. You got to start giving Dallas that love. So San Fran, Dallas, Cincy. How about, you have other teams with 3 losses ahead of Cincinnati. Jacksonville just got smoked. What do you do with Miami? What do you do with Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is still undefeated in their division.
No, absolutely not. I'm sorry.
Then you have
I love and respect Mike Tomlin so much. I am amazed that they keep winning. They are tantalizing. I was listening to Le Batard the other day, and Jessica Smetana picked them against the spread this weekend. And I can understand that because of the situation quarterback-wise you're going to see on the other side with DTR coming in. But outside of the fourth quarter and the Mike Tomlin magic of it all, I cannot rate them in the top 6 of NFL teams because of what we've seen or haven't seen from that offense on a consistent basis.
So we have to put San Francisco 5, right? They have to be ahead of Dallas because they smoked Dallas when they played. You have to give some credence to that head-to-head. That was a 42-10 game, even though
100%.
Dallas is playing better now. So you would have San Francisco at 5, correct?
I think so. And again, this is the human element portion of it where the committee is tasked with also understanding, hey, who was injured when? Did you have a different quarterback in? See 2017 USC before they installed Sam Darnold in as their quarterback and then went on that unholy tear. You do look at San Francisco and go, okay, Debo back, Trent Williams back, acquire currency. They went out there and beat a Jags team that's going to be kind of a weird Rorschach test in its own right. I think I saw some questions about, what they're going to do as far as needing to take more shots downfield, the offense outside of the initial play calls in there. Like, that's still a good win, though. They went and won it decisively, did the San Francisco 49ers. So I think they do deserve to be in that 5 spot. And then, Dad, the Dallas question, because you're right. Dallas has feasted on teams that they are clearly better than. They have gotten beaten by the teams that are above them in the NFC race right now. But how we situate them, you're right. Miami deserves to be in this conversation. Jacksonville, I think, for body of work, still deserves to be in this conversation. And then how you slot the Cincinnati Bengals in that now as well, who are trending like the best team in football and then suffer one setback, and now are we just going to leave them for dead?
Well, I mean, listen, this is why you do it week to week, right? Yeah, so you go by week to week. So I'm just trying to decide after San Fran, do we put Dallas? That seems to be, and if we're doing that, that's basing off of a team they beating the Giants that stinks. So we have to look at that, correct? That's why I just wonder, do you put a different team there? Because Dallas, I mean, they get smoked by some teams, especially the 49ers. So I'm not sure. I mean, I as a close game with the Eagles, a 5-point game, I almost feel like Dallas would be number 6 because Miami still show me something and beat a winning team, though. Could you say that about Dallas too, I guess?
You could, but I would say I would agree with you. I think we would go. So we've got the top 4: Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Baltimore. I would go San Francisco at number 5. They were already knocking on the door a bit last week, just on the outside looking in. With Jacksonville's direct head-to-head loss, you can put them above them, and then Dallas right after that. Because for Dallas, Dad, you look at, all right, is this sustainable? Dak Prescott has been one of the best quarterbacks on third down all season long. The last few games, and this has been a year where it feels like once we alert people of a problem, it immediately gets rectified in the world of NFL wide receivers. We saw A.J. Brown earlier in the year complain about not getting enough targets, and all of a sudden he's on historic pace for the Eagles season. We talked publicly, and I heard Dan Orlovsky complaining on ESPN about CeeDee Lamb. What are you doing? This guy's supposed to be your number 1 receiver. And now in the last subsequent weeks, since that conversation hit the big time, now he's been getting the ball ad nauseum. Now he's looked every bit like the number 1 receiver that Dallas paid for there. And you're behind an offensive line that seems to be in more complete form now. Tyler Smith transcending, turning into one of the best, young guards period in the NFL opposite Zach Martin. So they've got the strong foundation there. They've got the weapons on the outside they've been able to push, and we still know defensively for that group up front, while some of it might feel a little bit more game flow specific, and you worry about them against the specific matchups in the NFC of teams that can ground and pound them and get them in spots where you can't use the third down weaponry led by Micah Parsons. I still think overall they have looked like one of the best teams in football finally again, ever since that loss to San Francisco. Because remember, they had chances to win that game against Philly down the stretch. That was closely contested with one of the teams, the team we have listed as number 1 right now.
And the other teams that have 3 losses, you find the warts with them, right? Miami, we've talked about. Pittsburgh, you mentioned. Seattle, Cleveland now with the quarterback situation. So I think I would trust, of the 3-loss teams, Dallas more than those teams I just mentioned, to put them in the 6th slot because, boy, they have the talent. You just think about, man, if they don't get where they're trying to go, the underachieving that they would have, but they have to get by the one team in their division, and that's Philadelphia, and at this point they still can't do it.
Still can't do it. The team I am keeping my eye the closest on and I'm excited to continue to see the progress of is the Houston Texans. Like, they're not going to make any meaningful moves up the charts this week playing a Cardinals team that's bad and that we expect them to beat. But in a couple weeks, Jacksonville versus Houston, all of a sudden, with that division in question, starts to become a really, really enticing matchup. We thought the Jags were going to be able to run away with this one a little bit in the AFC South, but it does not appear to be the case if the Texans can keep this up. And remember, that game they won last week against the Bengals without their top receiver in Nico Collins and without their top running back in Dameon Pierce, although Devin Singletary probably deserving of a few more carries in that backfield based on the performance that we saw from him. So, all right, we feel comfortable about this then. Number 1, Philadelphia. Number 2, Kansas City. Number 3, Detroit Lions. Number 4, Baltimore Ravens. Number 5, just on the outside looking in, San Francisco, followed by Dallas.
Yep.
Now I just
think
need
we're
to
good
look
with
up the
that.
schedule. Now I just need to look up the schedule and see who is most likely to disappoint us this weekend and make us look bad based on this. It could start right tonight, Dad. We'll get to our Thursday night preview in a little bit. Cincinnati at Baltimore. But, man, is there something more tailor-made to make us look dumb than having Baltimore in the top 4 and immediately, Jesse, having the Cincinnati Bengals ruin that?
Yeah, that would be classic, wouldn't it? You would just love that.
We would absolutely love to see it.
Also, I have a Taylor Swift update. For you guys.
Okay. I was wondering. You made a face. That's why I was concerned, and I felt like we needed to go to you. So this is important.
I was just trying to transition into it. No good way to transition back. You said tailor-made, and I was like, I have a tailor-made comment. So Taylor plays Sunday in Brazil, but the Chiefs are on Monday Night Football. So, private planes, it is possible, right, for her to get there. I don't know exactly the fly time on that, but I feel like it's possible for her to get to the game on Monday night, and then her next show isn't until Friday after Thanksgiving. So we could be spending the week, the families together. Thanksgiving could be spent together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do we think this is moving kind of fast, gang? Do we think this is moving a little too fast?
Well, according to GoJo, who lives in LA, the whispers, sources have been saying that this has been going on for longer than the public knows.
Listen, I'm just saying, looking at the timeline, I think it makes a lot of sense that this has probably been the tip of the iceberg. And I've been saying this for a while, by the way, that's been going on a lot longer. I think that was a bait and switch that we got when Travis originally came out and said, I tried to give her the bracelet with my number at the concert in Kansas City, and she said no. I think that was probably where this could have began. I think reading the tea leaves a little bit. So, by the way, looking at the primetime schedule, Sunday night, more interesting than expected now, with the Vikings going on the road to a Denver Broncos team that's in a little bit resurgent. The Vikings have the past or not. Thursday Night Football we mentioned tonight. We'll get to talk about the Bengals at Baltimore. And then Monday Night Football being a rematch of the Super Bowl with the Eagles and the Chiefs. What we went through last weekend, we have been delivered from now. Primetime slop last weekend that we had to survive. Yeah. Now we have been delivered manna from heaven right now. This is an incredible slate that we've got. And we've got some stress games built in the schedule too, Dad, as far as teams that could embarrass us in our top group here. Feel pretty good about San Francisco, Tampa Bay on the road going to play the 49ers. I don't think they're going to make us look bad in that game there. Kansas City and Philly, really no loser there for us. We can feel pretty good about that overall. Detroit, Chicago going to Detroit, division game, but I'm not super worried about that one. So overall, I think we might get out of this one okay.
Yeah, I do as well. And I don't expect the Philadelphia KC game to be a blowout, so I actually think the loser may still stay in the top 4. We'll have to wait and see what the other teams do as well, just on the outside looking into this one. But I don't see a lot of too much change just on that, though. Like you said, it could start tonight with Baltimore and Cincinnati. All of a sudden, Cincinnati finding themselves yet again, and then we start talking about them yet again until they lay another clunker. Jesse, can I ask you really quick why that you said, well, GoJo seemed to seem differently about it, and he lives in L.A. What does living in L.A. have to do with that?
Because he's been saying, it's L.A., it's Hollywood. That's where the gossip, where the rumor mill is. So GoJo's telling us he's hearing things about, this Taylor Swift thing. So I'm like, oh, well, he's in L.A. He's hearing things that we're not privy to, Senior, because we don't live in L.A.
Are you, Mike? Are you hearing things that we're not privy to?
I'm built different. Listen, I'm just reading the tea leaves, baby, and I'm seeing the signs.
He's got sources,
been taking a look at all this.
Senior. He's got sources.
No. I'm a man who sees what's out there and understands that this all wouldn't possibly be happening on the timeline that we're seeing right now. You guys got to go ahead and look for this.
Big brain stuff.
I don't want these stuff. Yeah, I don't want these crazy kids rushing into anything. Take your time. They're young. You have time.
You know what? They're again kind of like you learned yesterday with us on the show. They're not that young.
That's the thing. I don't want to say it. I don't want to call anybody
they're young to me.
Old. But like,
I understand they're young to you, but they're not young for the earth. They're not young for the decision to get married or not. When you're dating in
Early
your 30s, you have a
isn't
little
young?
No.
What am I missing here? Really?
I mean, not relative to this decision. No, absolutely not.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Kick off your NFL weekend with Thursday Night Football on Prime. It is on, baby. It's going to be Ravens-Bengals. Here's Joe Burrow reflecting on that first matchup with the Ravens in Week 2 that they ended up losing.
You know, I wasn't obviously feeling my best at that point. Didn't quite have my full toolbox in there. But I thought we did some good things in the second half, like you said. You know, first half we didn't have a ton of plays. They did a good job. You know, we found some explosives in the second half. That's what we have to try to do. They do a great job of limiting those explosive plays, and you have to try to find them because they're going to do a really good job on offense, keeping the ball, running it, scoring points. So we're going to have to do the same.
Guys, so the Ravens won that first matchup 27-24. Burrow still wasn't 100% coming back from that injury. So obviously this is the time that your rankings that you just came up with are going to get messed up, and the Bengals are going to go out and win this one.
Yep, no doubt they're going to make us look bad. If you're looking for the trend that's followed in the NFL each of the last few weeks, this would be the opportunity. Although the Ravens already lost last week, Dad, in a game against the Cleveland Browns where DeShaun Watson was playing hurt. So maybe they got it out of the way then and are going to be good now in this game. Both teams, we mentioned before, but it bears repeating, limping into this one somewhat. The Ravens going to be without left tackle Ronnie Stanley, which unfortunately has become a refrain that they're familiar with. Feel bad for Ronnie, man. He's been battling hard to get back from a lot of that and had looked and started to feel like the player that we saw earn that big contract for them. Marlon Humphrey also was listed as doubtful yesterday, their cornerback, so we'll see about some of the depth in the secondary. And then for Cincinnati on their side, Sam Hubbard, their defensive end, who's a great run stuffer, missed last game, looks like he's going to miss this one. Trey Hendrickson, I know, got beat up in the last one. And then T. Higgins going to be out again on the short week at wide receiver. So, Dad, I lean pretty squarely in favor of the Ravens at this game. When you look at specifically what they've been able to do to even a healthy Joe Burrow, last year, 2 of his 3 worst games in terms of quarterback rating came against the Baltimore Ravens. This defense and Mike McDonald really understand how to solve the problem that is Joe Burrow and do it pretty well.
So, you look at other stats, Ravens lead the NFL in explosive plays, and Cincinnati gives up the most explosive plays. So you look at that and you wonder, will big plays hit for Baltimore? One thing you can explain a little bit, because we're seeing more of this year. I've talked about stunts up front, but you're also seeing, a lot of anywhere up to 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. Now, in the games under Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, for Baltimore, in 4 matchups, they've blitzed Burrow just 19 of 164 dropbacks. But it can look misleading because you see all the guys up on the line of scrimmage and you think it's going to be a blitz. And then what happens is a defense will drop players out where 4 will still rush, but Mike gets done to confuse the offensive line instead of just a straight 4-man rush where everybody knows exactly where they're going, whether you're sliding or what you're doing. It's a little different. You could explain better as an O lineman for people to watch when everybody is up on the line what the O line is doing, because they don't know. A lot of times it's just 4 that are rushing, so it's no more than normal, but they don't know which 4 are rushing of the 6 that are on the line.
Yeah, Baltimore's gotten really good. It's basically the bait and switch. You're trying to get them to slide one way or move one way and then send guys the other way on that defense. And that's why that stat is kind of misleading, because they end up just rushing 4 guys, but you get a free hitter like Kyle Hamilton coming from the outside who gets to waylay your quarterback. And we've seen even last game that can produce bad results for opposing offenses. And so I think that's part of it too, because you're also trying to confuse the offensive line and freeze the quarterback a little bit. You got guys dropping into zones they weren't in normally. And so now even Joe Burrow, who's been at his best, and we saw the signs of healthy Joe Burrow when all his passing stats after 2.5 seconds in the pocket or moving out of the pocket jumped up. That was when we were like, okay, healthy Joe Burrow is back. We're good to go. Even for that guy, though, when you're able to make him think an extra second, when you're able to present something one way and then completely change it post-snap, they've used it and been able to bother Joe Burrow. And behind this offensive line that's still kind of getting its sea legs underneath it and has still at times had trouble, I do think that's a matchup that can swing the balance of power on that side of the ball. And Dad, on the other side, then, we talked about the effect Sam Hubbard not being there had. Houston was able to run all over the Bengals.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to the Texans, but they've been a bottom dweller rushing team for most of this season. That was really the only game where they jumped out and did anything. You're going up against the Baltimore Ravens right now that, in addition to already having Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards and these guys in the backfield behind a really good offensive line, now just unlock this Keaton Mitchell thing, who only inexplicably had 4 touches in this last game, needs to have a lot more because, Dad, the undrafted rookie out of East Carolina is a spark plug in this offense. He's got great home run speed. He's really twitchy. And I'd imagine if you're Todd Monken, you're going to look at what you did last week and say, all right, we went away. We got a deep backfield. We forgot about it. We've got to find more opportunities to get this guy the football, because he adds an element to your offense that I think, even as good of rushing offense it is, Lamar Jackson is not as explosive as he was. He's getting older. He doesn't quite have that same twitch in the open field. This guy's got some of that juice that I think this offense can benefit from.
Yeah, and Lamar has been pretty successful against Cincinnati. In 7 of 8, he's won 7 of 8 starts in his career against Cincinnati. To me, I gave the stat about Baltimore, the most explosive plays, Cincinnati giving up the most explosive. But we know Cincy can be explosive as well. Now, as we mentioned, T. Higgins is out, so that takes some away from it. But they can be an explosive offense. But as we talked about earlier, when you have all those guys on the line, this is why, film study to me is so important, especially, not only the O-line in every position, quite honestly, but to me, one of the most important things a quarterback has to decipher is in that split second after the snap, what do you have? You can sit there and look at what you see pre-snap, but so many defenses now are not showing you what they're going to be in pre-snap. At least I think the better, unless you're just that good where you can just line up and say, we're going to beat you, i.e. see Buddy Ryan's defenses. But other than that, and then especially what happened as well I know when we played together for a while in Philly and had guys that have been together for a while, you get freedoms on where and what you do before the snap. We would be moving around everywhere. We would be lining up in different positions because we had played together for a while and we wanted to not give the look. And then as long as obviously by the snap, you made sure of where your responsibility and where you were going to be, that was fine. But the whole idea, it's not rocket science here to figure out, is make the quarterback have to make that decision as late as possible about what he's getting, to your point, to have that just a split-second hesitation, and that could change everything on a play. So I always like seeing defenses move around and see, are they giving something away? Sometimes they make a move too quick, and the smart quarterbacks, they know exactly what's going to happen. They know exactly where they're going to move and what defense they're going to end up in. So the chess game gets to be pretty fun to watch, especially with defenses that are moving around trying to confuse offenses. I love watching that part of the game.
I think the fun part about this game for me is that both of these quarterbacks have the ability to be calm when that does happen. And it's not even the split-second decisions. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow are two of the best quarterbacks in football in calmly navigating the chaos post-snap and then using their athletic ability to buy time and get the ball downfield. Lamar Jackson has looked supremely in control of that so far this season. So he's played MVP caliber ball, and now as their receivers have started to catch these passes, saw OBJ took another slant to the house, which, man, that felt nostalgic this last weekend. It started to reflect that in the numbers now. Dad, the line in this game is 3.5 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. I'm inclined to take them and give the points. I know the AFC North usually is not a place where you want to do that, but listen to this stat from NFL Research. The Baltimore Ravens have the least time spent trailing in the NFL this season. They've only trailed for 28 minutes, 28 minutes of actual game time. Listen in the last 40 years to the other teams that are in their tax bracket. For the teams with the 5 lowest time spent trailing in NFL history, it's them, the 84 Dolphins, the 98 Broncos, the 90 Giants, and the 07 Patriots. All 4 of those other teams that had trailed the least amount in NFL history were 10-0 at this point. The Baltimore Ravens are the only team with a loss. That shows you how close the margin has been for Baltimore, where they have been so much better for so long in these games. The weird fourth quarter stuff is somewhat concerning. Dad, I'm inclined to believe that evens out, and I'm inclined to believe that starts this week.
Yeah, I think so as well. Outside Cincinnati starting to look like what we've seen. They've just been too inconsistent. I'm with you on this one. I lean Baltimore's way.
Congratulations to the Cincinnati Bengals on your win now that we've decided.
Exactly. It's exactly right.
Welcome back to GoJo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Jesse Cofield. And Jesse, today is an important day in this show's history and really in the world's history. We have a lot of arbitrary made-up days that pop up, and National Fast Food Day feels very spiritually aligned with us here. We've got some interesting stats about the United States' relationship with fast food that are already causing controversy among our show staff here. So what can you tell us, Jesse, on National Fast Food Day?
Yeah, a holy day, some would say, in America. So 83% of American families eat at fast food restaurants at least once a week. I was quite shocked by this. You thought that was not a big deal.
I don't. Yeah, that seems like, honestly, once a week seems like light work to me because that's like a fun little treat, especially if you've got kids. I'd imagine that's one thing. And Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you're at the age yet where your daughter is diving into the fast food train or if you got a bribe like that, but that seems like an easy thing. Like, hey, if we're good at the end of the week, this doesn't have the same cachet now, but when I was a kid, like going to get the Happy Meal toy in there, that was something you kind of look forward to, especially if they had some special offer going on at the time.
I was raised in, my mom was one of those organic mommies before that was really a thing. So we were really not allowed to have this kind of stuff. She wasn't a complete lunatic. We were allowed to, have it sometimes, but it was I remember every 3 weeks, my brother had a math tutor and we would all have to drive to the math tutor and we would get McDonald's. And that was whoa. So
a treat.
Yeah, a huge treat. So I guess I just was not in the norm, I guess. Also, the average American household spends 10% of their annual income on fast food.
That is something. That part doesn't make sense to me because if 83% of families are eating fast food, I guess it's at least once a week, so that affords the opportunity for more, and that's where the 10%. That's how math works, Mike. I'm dumb. Sorry.
Also,
I will tell you this. Mike and Jake were born 15 months apart, and then Sydney came a few years after that. We definitely got fast food, and the amount of fries and things like that ended up on the floor of the car. Oh. What an absolute mess that it would be. But yeah, they had their share of fast food. I did. McDonald's was a huge fast food for me as I was growing up. And the first sport I did was swimming. So me and my people on the swim team, we'd go to McDonald's all the time. Big Mac was my go-to burger all the time. Then as I got older, it became Wendy's. It was a triple, a single, and a Frosty. That was my go-to when I got older, like in high school.
Wait, so you would get a triple and a single?
Yes.
Why a triple and a single? Could you not get two doubles?
No, I liked the triple, and then it wasn't enough to fill me up, so I got the single. I just like the triple. I like holding the triple.
Did you combine the single onto the triple and make it a quad? Did you eat them separately?
No. I ate them separately with my Frosty. Separately. So I just like the triple. I like getting the triple. Ooh. I like getting their biggest burger and eating it and then realizing it wasn't enough, so I knew I would need more.
So are you also someone, we had this discussion yesterday, I believe, when you were off the show. Are you a French fry into the Frosty dipper?
No, I have never. I will do it, but for the most part, I am not. That is not the way I go. I will dip into ketchup. I will dip into mustard. I will dip into barbecue sauce.
That's where it's at.
Yeah. I'll dip the fry into all of that, but I very rarely, if ever, will I dip it into a Frosty or a shake of any kind.
Yeah, because it's gross.
Yeah,
well, I'm like this, Jesse. I'm like this because there's the argument when people get pineapple on pizza, that's not pizza. And that's ridiculous. It is pizza, and it's pineapple on pizza.
Pretty good pizza.
You may not like pineapple on pizza, and that's fine, but it's still a pizza that has pineapple as one of the toppings. So I'm not going to curse somebody that I'm just not going to eat it. I don't particularly care for it.
What if they do what Jameson Williams did and they put their McFlurry on top of a cheeseburger?
On the burger, on the meat.
You can't endorse that. You can't support that.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, let me ask you this. Are they all ending up in your gut?
No, absolutely not. That's I understand where you're going with that, but that's wrong in this case.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about anything. You could say that about anything.
Why is it wrong? See, this is what I don't understand, because somebody doesn't eat it the way you think it should be eaten, that it's wrong.
No, because that's the way America thinks it should be eaten.
Well, so what?
Yes.
I mean, are we all just sheep and say if this is the way they do it, then this is the way we're all going to do it?
Yes, and then we will publicly shame them.
Feel free to have a mind of your own if you want to try something. I have zero problem. And boy, look at this. You guys are the 30-something. I'm the 60-year-old who's set in their ways. Man, go enjoy it. You want to dump your shake on your burger? Have a ball. I'm not going to do it. I don't enjoy that. But if you like that, why the hell would I have a problem with that?
Because children are watching, and if they decide to emulate that, then we've really started problems in society. Because you're actively making both parts of that equation worse by putting them together in that way. I award you no points. Dad, you and I did our fast food rankings in the fall, and I feel like part of the thing that always comes off this, we were having this conversation, Tom Glennon, one of our producers, brought up that he goes to Chipotle every week, one night a week. That's not fast food to me. Chipotle, to me, doesn't count. I can watch them cooking the ingredients fresh in the back there. That does not count as fast food to me. The same way where fast food, in my mind, is you've got that thin veil between us and what's going on in the kitchen, where it's hidden by the tray. You know that tray where they've got the racks of them, and when the food is ready, they put it out there so the people up front can do that. There's separation of church and state. Like Five Guys, same deal. I can watch them cook the burger back there in front of me there. That is not fast food in the same way that like an In-N-Out burger is, which is why when we have that debate all the time, Five Guys, objectively better burger than In-N-Out burger, but in a different price range, cooked differently in a way that doesn't feel as fast foody as In-N-Out burger that's a little bit more conveyor belt assembly line style packaging.
We will completely disagree here. I watch them cook a burger at In-N-Out Burger, and I watch them cook a burger at Five Guys. It's the same thing.
You don't watch them cook the burger at In-N-Out. The kitchen's not open like that.
Yeah,
the kitchen is absolutely. You can absolutely see where they're cooking the burger in In-N-Out. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back around the corner and creep into the kitchen.
Bottom line is, after I do my order and when I go over where the drink is, I can look square back there and see exactly where they're cooking and preparing the burger. So I can't believe you don't think Five Guys is fast food. Chipotle is absolutely fast food. My definition of fast food is walk in, order, get your food. You know, I don't care if I can see them cooking it or not. If I have to sit down and a waiter or waitress comes over and I have to order, okay, I get it. That's not fast food. But if I can get my food faster at times in Chipotle than I can at a McDonald's.
So what? If you go actually now to like Shake Shack, which I did recently, you go up and you just put your order in a little computer and
it
gets your order ready for you.
Yeah.
Dad, I will say one of the major differentiators is usually also, and this was one that skews in favor of my argument here, presence of a drive-thru. Five Guys, no drive-thru.
Correct.
Chipotle, no drive-thru. Inherently less fast food on the spectrum than the ones you're talking about.
I think there's three tiers. There's like sitting down and ordering. You've got your Chipotles and your Five Guys, and then you have like your McDonald's and your Taco Bells, your drive-thru people.
Fast casual. To me, like, I think of Dad, when we did these lists, you had like Sourdough World and all these highfalutin places on there. To me, that's not the down and dirty, man. Like, Taco Bell is my number one.
What is Sourdough World? What is
because
that?
It's also a very specific Arizona chain.
Oh.
Well, it is, and it's a great sub, and it's not highfalutin. It's just a really good sub. I mean, because it doesn't have a drive-thru, that's not the definition for me. I'll say this, though, real quickly. When you talk about burgers, fries, chicken, shakes, just like we talk about in sports, one guy is so much better than the next guy at his position. What's the drop-off? I think the best thing there is where something is number one and there's a huge drop-off after this is the Portillo shake. Their shake that has bits of cake in it is so far and away the best shake I've ever had that the next one I can't even think of what a second. Where I can split up burgers close here, fries close here, but the Portillo shake is by far and away the best shake I've ever had in my life.
Don't even know what a Portillo's is.
But again,
Jesse, I'm going to change your life when I get
more fast casual than I would say in the pantheon of actual fast food shakes. The Wendy's Frosty reigns supreme in its own tax bracket. All right, guys, time to finish off the day the way we always do. This, that, and the third. 3 quick stories to send you off on into your day. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us. Leave us a 5-star rating and check us out live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. But if you miss it or miss us, you can get all of it, including our great guests like Arizona head football coach Jedd Fisch, who joined us earlier today, wherever you get your podcast, or right here on the DraftKings YouTube channel as soon as we finish at 10 o'clock Eastern every day. Also, want to give a shout out if you're watching on YouTube right now and you see me rocking the new Cali Redwoods shirt from the Premier Lacrosse League there. A big congrats to those guys this week. Made the announcement that the Premier Lacrosse League is now going to have geographic locations for their teams. They've been barnstorming since their inception all the way back in 2018. And now, Dad, looking at what this league has grown into, seeing them, you got all these different teams that have affiliations. The Boston Cannons, obviously, in Boston. The New York Atlas, the Philadelphia Water Dogs, the Maryland Whipsnakes, Carolina Chaos, the Denver Outlaws, formerly the Chrome Lacrosse Club, the Utah Archers, and, of course, the California Redwoods, which, Dad, they sent along some gear for you, too. We got some shirts getting you ready to go because, and let people not aware, the Redwoods, the team with the highest percentage usually year in and year out of former Notre Dame lacrosse players. So that is whom we root for, and that is who we rep around here. So congrats to Paul Rabel and the guys over at the PLL for yet another big step forward in what's been an historically groundbreaking venture into the next level of lacrosse, and it's been really cool to see for them.
Don't be wearing my stuff. All right, they sent it to me. Don't wear it. I'll be out there calling a game for the Rams or the Chargers at some point here soon. So just put it away. Don't put it on. I don't need your body stretching the shirt into how it fits my sleek body. Okay? So let's not be doing any of that. Just put it to the side.
You too.
No, it makes sense. You're a little boy and you don't want the big old boy to go out here and stretch your shirt out here with this man body here right now so your bones can fit inside this. Totally understand that.
Okay.
Oh, you
right.
Totally understand.
Whatever.
That. Oh, no. Congrats to the PLL. Congrats to those guys. Very excited to continue to rep the Woods out here. Roll damn Woods. Let's roll on into this, that, and the third, guys, for some big ones here.
Yeah,
This is an entirely Taylor and Travis theme.
Travis.
Oh, boy.
Right? That's what this stands for today?
Pretty much, because, man, if you look at yesterday, one of the scariest things in the world happened to Travis Kelce yesterday. This man had an army full of the internet's most premier sleuths going through his old tweets. And usually when that happens with athletes, we wind up with something mildly racist, homophobic, problematic that gets them in trouble. And instead, what we have got with Travis Kelce is the squirrel tweet. This is poetry. As someone pointed out, Folklore XV1, Taylor Swift in 2011 wrote the lyric, "From when your Brooklyn broke my skin and bones, I'm a soldier who's returning half her weight. And did the twin flame bruise paint you blue? Just between us, did the love affair maim you too?" The same year that Travis Kelce tweeted, "I just gave a squirrel a piece of bread and it straight smashed all of it. I had no idea they ate bread like that. Ha ha, hashtag crazy." And spelled squirrel, SQUIRLE. Dad, if Webster doesn't change their dictionary definition spelling of squirrel to that, I am going to riot. That's the only way I'll endorse it from now on.
Wait, sorry. He also spelled peace, PEICE. Which is
perfect.
Not correct.
In every way.
Yeah.
What year was this?
2011.
2011.
Oh, okay. All right. Back in the day when Travis was having a little bit of trouble staying on teams, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about his behavior at that point then. His tweets were at least very wholesome. I saw another one that the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife retweeted where Travis Kelce was asked by someone, "Would you rather fight a bear in the forest or a shark in the ocean?" To which Travis responded, "Once again, I do not abuse animals. A lover of animals." This guy is scoring high marks across the board at every turn.
Let me also just say this. Pick 10 people. Walk down the street, pick 10 people, tell them to spell squirrel and peace, and see how many get both correct.
The squirrel thing, I could see how you could get a little jammed up with that one. But peace,
a lot of people have trouble with the I-E-E-I thing, don't they?
Before E, except after,
Right.
You can't defend.
All right.
Also,
no. I'm just
saying.
telling you, I think a lot of people would spell it wrong.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
which says more maybe about our current education system than Travis Kelce.
I will say big win for Travis, like you alluded to, GoJo, that like going back through his tweets and it's just like hilariously unproblematic, which is great.
Yeah, finding out
Thank
that Travis
God.
Kelce actually has big golden retriever energy. Hugely big win. Up at Olive Garden with Papa. Had to grab the fettuccine with the chicken Alfredo. Hashtag schmackin'. Travis, never changed,
Never
brother.
changed.
Good stuff.
Speaking,
By the way, that's a great meal. It's a great meal.
Speaking of schmacking, he was schmacking on the Christmas album with his brother here, right? Okay, so now he actually, do you think he's getting tips from Taylor? He has his own album, not exactly, he's featured on a song. So he lent his vocal talents to a Philly special Christmas, the Eagles Christmas album, and he sounds amazing.
Got cars, big as bars, they got rivers of gold. Put the wind goes right through you, no place for the old. When you first took my hand on a cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broad Street was waiting for me.
He sounded good.
Well, Mike, remember we were out at Lake Tahoe when I golfed in that event in Lake Tahoe. They had one of the nights they had karaoke. And he is renowned. He is well known for going up there and just bringing down the house with his karaoke. And he did. There were plenty of people that went up there and sang. Plenty of people, who everybody knows pretty well. He went up there and just killed it. So that, Jesse, doesn't surprise me one bit after seeing his performance at Lake Tahoe.
That's the unfinished version, right? Like that's someone just filming him in the studio, and he sounded I was pretty much blown away. But it sounds like it's not just Taylor's influence on him. If you saw him do karaoke.
No, he's definitely got the chops and the confidence in there, but
he does.
The Fairy Tale of Philadelphia was for the Christmas charity album that the Eagles O-line did. My unsolicited advice or tip with them would be, if you want to save the world, Christmas Tree Farm. Taylor Swift's Christmas song, have the Eagles O-line and Travis sing it with them. It benefits Philly. It feeds Philly's fandom that Taylor Swift's often been associated with. I know Papa Swift was taking a little bit of heat from Jason Kelce on the podcast for switching up and wearing the Chiefs lanyard, so this can solve a lot of problems with the musical talent they all now have available to them. But guys, let's get to the third.
It's pretty good.
Jesse, this is the part I wasn't expecting. In all the Swelsey mania that we've seen take over, I didn't realize our animal friends would also be in the party.
Yeah, Kelce is 2023's most popular dog name. Which,
wow.
Yeah, first of all, I don't really know how you track something like this. What are they, like, polling people? It's not like you have to register your dog, so I'm not sure where they're getting this from. But apparently, Kelce is 2023's most popular dog name, and I find that a little weird.
I do as well. I didn't see that one coming. I'm not going to lie. And then is that a? I'm not going to sit there and say, name your pet what you want, that it's a bad name. But I have always been of the ilk. Like, I have 5 dogs here now. 3 dogs that Chris and I have. And then we have Sydney and Ben's 2 dogs because, again, if you weren't with us earlier, my daughter Sydney had a baby girl last night. Alexandra, she is 7 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches long. Mother and daughter are doing wonderfully. So we have their 2 dogs as well. What are you laughing at, Mike? What did I do wrong?
Just the fact that anytime Ben or the baby come up, you have to list their entire resume and life story.
I just think it's hysterical, actually, the tradition of like giving the stats like it's a prize fish that you caught. Yes. 7 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches.
Every now and then when I go do a talk and people say, is your family large? I would say, my dad was 6'4", 260, what Bob and Greg. And I'll say my mom was 6'3", 270, and I'll say it with a straight face. And people will kind of like chuckle a little bit. I'm like, why are you laughing? She wasn't, but I just kind of like messing around. Back to the story really quickly. Our dog names, Harry, Hank, Earl. For Sydney and Ben, it's Earl and Dorothy. Nice, easy, kind of one outside of Dorothy, we call her Dot. 1 syllable names, let's be done with it.
Okay, but so they named one of their dogs the same name as one of your dogs?
No, it's Ted, and he messed that up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was like, interesting.
It's like, wait a minute.
I screwed
It's a really bold power play here to just walk in and name their dog the same name as yours.
Like our dog is named the same as your dog. We like ours better. We love them all the same.